The Scarecrow Keeper. The chilling story of the killer who turned his victims into macabre art. Autumn in the Ozarks has a kind of sad beauty. The trees turn amber and crimson, and a thick fog drifts through the hills, muffling every sound. If you walk far enough, the world goes quiet, eerily quiet, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. It was in this haunting calm that Betty Wilkins, a 59-year-old former librarian, vanished. It was October 2012. She was a quiet woman, recently widowed, who told her children she needed a few days alone just to clear my head. On October 22nd, she parked her silver sedan near the Big Creek Trail. She had a small backpack, a bottle of water, and her old notebook she never went anywhere without. A fellow hiker saw her around 9 that morning, walking slowly with a faint, sad smile. That night, Betty didn't return to her motel. Her car was found the next morning, untouched, keys still inside. And in the forest, the fog thickened, as if the woods had swallowed her whole. Search teams came quickly. Volunteers, dogs, drones, the works. But the Ozarks are endless. Some parts of the forest are so dense that sunlight barely reaches the ground. After 3 days, they found her backpack. It was lying beneath an old oak tree, miles off the main trail. Inside were her empty water bottle, a headlamp, and her notebook. The notebook was open to the very last page, and on that page, she had written only one sentence. "I think he's been following me since the cornfield." The cornfield she mentioned doesn't exist anymore. But back then, there was an abandoned farm a few miles north. Locals called it a Galloway farm. No one had lived there since the 1980s. After the last owner, a man named Ezra Galloway, hanged himself in his barn. Ezra was strange. He was obsessed with making scarecrows. Dozens of them, hand-stitched from rags, branches, and leather masks. Neighbors said he spoke to them at night. He called them his silent children. When police investigated his property after his death, they found more than 50 of these figures surrounding the farm, a circle of silent watchers. Many were burned, but some still stood, rotting in the fields, half buried in weeds. A week after Betty disappeared, a hunter called the sheriff's office. He said he'd seen something off near the old Galloway property, a scarecrow that looked too real. When deputies arrived, they froze. It wasn't a scarecrow. It was Betty Wilkins. Her body had been drained, dried, and arranged like a grotesque sculpture. Her eyes were replaced with glass marbles, and carved into her chest were 2 words. For Ezra, the media exploded with headlines. The Scarecrow murders. The Keeper of the Fields. But despite months of investigation, no fingerprints, no DNA, no leads. The case was eventually closed, labeled as an isolated act of obsession. But the locals started talking. They said the Galloway farm was never truly empty, that if you went near it at night, you could still see a faint light flickering inside the barn, and sometimes a shadow moving between the old scarecrows. 2 years later, a young couple, Sam and Lindsay Barrett, decided to film a short documentary about the legend. They had a GoPro, a flashlight, and way too much confidence. The last footage on their camera shows Lindsay filming inside the barn. You can hear Sam's voice shaky but joking. They look like they're moving. Then a clanging sound, a quick gasp, and a scream. The camera was found 3 miles away, half buried in mud. Sam's body was never found. Lindsay's was discovered a month later, hanging like an ornament on a giant scarecrow in a nearby field. Once again, carved into her chest. For Ezra, after that, the county sealed the trail and fenced off the Galloway property. No trespassing signs everywhere. But people who live nearby still report things. Strange noises at night, whispers in fog, and the smell of burning leather drifting through the trees. Some say the Scarecrow Keeper isn't a man at all, that it's the spirit of Ezra Galloway, still guarding his creations. Others believe it a cult, copying his work, one victim every autumn. But there's something no one can explain. Every year, around late October, a new scarecrow appears, always in a different spot, always with the same carved message. For Ezra, an old retired sheriff, finally spoke up years later. He said that during the original investigation, they found something in the barn, a dusty, broken camera. Inside were several black and white photos. Each one showed something worse than the last. Bodies hanging, faces stitched, hands tied with twine. The final photo was blurry, but you could still make out a man behind the camera. Tall, wearing a heavy coat and a burlap mask. 2 empty holes where the eyes should have been. But the part that haunted the sheriff the most? The photo's timestamp read 1997, 15 years before Betty Wilkins ever vanished. To this day, no one knows who or what the Scarecrow Keeper really is. A copycat killer? A deranged fan of Ezra's twisted art? Or something older, something that doesn't die? The Galloway farm still stands, rotting, swallowed by vines and fog. And every October, when the leaves start to turn and the nights grow longer, the stories begin again. They say if you wander too far into those woods, you might hear him, a whisper behind you, low and calm. Don't move, you're perfect just like that. And when you see a scarecrow standing alone in an empty field, remember, not all of them are made of straw.